the Tamiya DB-02, regarded as a flop by the racing community. I'm going to put an argument up for why this is probably one of the coolest kits I've ever come across. Hey guys, welcome back to Tamiya Legends, and once again thank you for stopping by. Got something really cool on the channel today, or at least in my opinion. I think this is seriously cool. So we've got hold of the 2012 Tamiya DB-02 Leonis. It's not a car that a lot of people know about. I've got a pretty good knowledge of all Tamiya cars, and when I say that I mean I know of them. That doesn't mean I've got any detail behind that. So I knew about this car, but this is just such an interesting story for me, of which I'm going to go through in this video. I'm going to give you a little bit of history in my words. It could be way off, but this is how I'm going to give you my take on how they got to this and then what happened after this, which I find mega interesting. So first of all, it's basically a competition four-wheel drive buggy from Tamiya. Shaft driven, dual shaft driven, completely different brand new chassis on the DB-02. Looks stunning. It's got a body designed by Tom's. It's pretty special, to be honest, but it is quite rare now, and that's because this is regarded by the racing community as a flop, which really interests me. So when I got a chance of buying this new in-box kit, because you just do not see these for sale, it's very rare. You go on eBay, there's hardly anything. Production only ran from 2012 for about 16 months in total. So you can imagine there's just not many of these things about. If you go on Facebook groups and forums and stuff, then all the racers are commenting why it was a flop and stuff. So before we get into it, what I just want to make really clear is I'm not a racer. So all the reasons given for why this is a flop and why it didn't cut it, you know, they're race reasons. For me, who's someone who just runs in car parks on a bit of gravel, this is going to be a really cool thing. You can tell how rare this car is because I always think YouTube's a good indication of that, of how many videos there are. Type in DB-02 and you get a list of videos. But they're mainly by two channels, which is John Weston at Iconic RC and Michael at Nordic RC. After that, there's very little about this buggy. So let's get into the history of this and why, in my opinion, I think this is one of the coolest cars I've ever had. Right, let's get into this. So again, these are just my opinions. I might get a lot of this wrong. This is just stuff I've researched and read. And literally, I've only done it over the last probably 7 to 10 days. So if I get a lot wrong, or if I get certain things wrong, please stick it in the comments, because I really like to learn about this stuff. So I'm going to start with the Tamiya TRF 501X, released in 2006. Now, as we all know, TRF is the pinnacle of Tamiya racing. TRF stands for Tamiya Racing Factory. So as I say, in 2006 they released a 501X. Now, as you can see, it's a beautiful looking thing. The TRF buggies are the pinnacle of Tamiya, and the way that works is it's just like Formula 1 in real life or MotoGP. All the prototypes and different parts are changed in that scenario, and when parts work, then they filter down to lesser machines, which are things like this. So TRF is no different. So that's where I'm going to start, the TRF 501. That for me is where the DB-01 was born from. Now the DB-01 Durga came out in 2007. Yes, I've got that right, 2007. As you can see, it shares a lot of similarity with the 501. Now obviously all the beautiful blue alloys being swapped for plastic, but it's dual belt drive. You can see the layout's very similar, although the TRF stuff in that era always ran saddle pack batteries, whereas obviously the DB-01 were designed more for the consumer, which has got the battery running down the side. So the DB-01 was regarded as a huge success. Again, if you do your research, I've never had a DB-01, but I will get one on the channel. But if you do your research, it's very rare you find or you read anything negative about them. They're classed as a really solid chassis, and not an out-and-out racer as such, but once you add a few hop-ups to it, the guys race these things. So, mega cool. So the DB-01, pretty much instant success. Still ready to, you can still buy them on eBay now, the original ones. Anyway, in 2009, Tamiya released the DB-01R. Now, as you can see, when Tamiya put an R against something, it usually comes with a few hop-ups. Now, again, I don't know a great deal. I've not delved into what the differences are on this chassis, but if you just look at the picture, you can see it comes with the TRF aeration shocks. It looks like it's got a centered, it looks like it comes with a slipper clutch as standard. And there's a few little bits of blue TRF alloy I can see on that chassis. So that was the second incarnation of a DB-01. And then, this is when the DB-02 came out. So in 2012, this bad boy came out. Now, what's interesting for me is the Tamiya development of the DB range really comes from the TRF range at the time. Now, if I mix the TRF stuff in with this video, I'm going to get really confused because I don't know enough about it. But as I said, you've seen the 501X, and then the development from the TRF range went through the 501W Worlds Edition, then the 502, and then they threw the 511 in, and then they finished up with the 503 in 2014. So I can't really talk about that because I don't know too much about it. Hopefully you guys in the comments who are TRF boys will tell me how it all interlinks, because I do know a lot of those TRF parts are interchangeable, more so on the DB-01, but I believe some on the DB-02 as well. So this is where it gets interesting for me. This is just a brand new chassis that Tamiya released. Completely different layout from the DB-01. So as you can see from this picture, I've done the DB-01 at the top standard, and then the DB-02. So the DB-01 was belt driven. You can see the battery goes all the way down one side, and then you had your layout for your electrics on the other side. Whereas the DB-02, it totally changed. From that motor went really forward from the centre, and they smashed the battery right to the back of the chassis. And obviously they came away from the belt drive system and went to shaft. So this was a real massive change. So as I say, this was 2012. Now it didn't run. Now the reason it was a bit of a flop to the race guys from what I'm reading is the drive system wore very quickly in racing conditions. And you basically, to make it as competitive as you can, you had to have all, well not all, but the majority of the hop-ups up. So the ones that I know of which seemed to be a must was the slipper clutch. Obviously this doesn't come with a slipper clutch, and the set of the universal prop shafts. Now there may well be other stuff, I'm not too sure, but that's the two main ones that I've read, that if you were racing this bad boy, it kind of got it to a level that it kind of needed to be. So here's where this gets mega interesting for me. So as I said, 2012, this ran for over a year, 14 to 16 months. Now, I would have expected, because this had been all the design work and the manufacturing had been done, I would have thought Tamiya next step would have been to just improve this. So maybe make, I don't know, an R version, slipper clutch, those universal UJs and whatever else it needed to make it competitive. So did they do that? No. The DB-02 was gone, which blows me away. So 2013, where I would have thought the R version of this comes out, nope. The DB-01 comes back out as the RR version. As you can see, it's got the Tamiya aeration big bore shocks on. Again, without doing my research, I don't know how the RR differs from the R. I'm guessing it's got more TRF technology on it, but again, I don't 100% know. But that's the bit that blew me away. You know, you had DB-01, DB-01R, DB-01, sorry, DB, see, this is where I make mistakes. DB-01, then the DB-01R, then the DB-02 came out, and then scrapped and back to the DB-01RR. So shaft driven again, you know, completely different layout. Incredible. Then there's another one. So another couple of years development from the RR, and I still would have expected, because of the time and effort and cost that went into developing the DB-02, I would have expected an R version to come out. So in 2015, the next DB comes out, which is the DB-01RRR, the triple R. As you can see, it's got some different wheels on. It's got some very unique Tamiya shocks on it, which, I'll be honest, they're very rare. I've never even seen a set of those for sale. I'm pretty confident they only go on that one car. So that's pretty cool in itself. And that kind of brings us up to date. Now here's a reason why I think this is super cool. So how often is it in the whole Tamiya timeline that something like that happens? The DB-01 I have heard sort of been bandied around as the poor man's version of the TRF 501. Very similar to how the Vanquish was the poor man's Avanti back in the day. Now, I always find that sentence, the poor man's, a little bit sort of derogatory, a little bit. It doesn't tell. The Vanquish was, on the racetrack, the Vanquish was probably as good, if not better, on the racetrack, just because of its new geometry and different things. I know all the metal went to plastic and what have you, but with the geometry changes, it was a better buggy. Anyway, I just find it mega interesting that from TRF development to finally getting the DB-01 out, you know, as I say, shaft driven, this unique chassis layout it had, and then two versions of that, and then boom, DB-02, this all singing, all dancing piece of kit. Looks awesome, I think, in my opinion. Throw the belts away, go to shaft driven, this completely new layout, and then basically throw it away and go back to the DB-01 RR, and then again RRR. So that's why I find it mega interesting. So in my opinion, to have one of these is super cool. As I say, these are quite rare. They're not rare because they're very sought after and expensive and very collectible, although that's where I think they are rare. I think these are very collectible now. Obviously, as time goes on, these are just going to get less and less. And as I say, you look on eBay, I've never seen one, you know, so I'm super chuffed to have this. As I say, I really hope I've got my information correct. If I haven't, please correct me in the comments. But I am such a Tamiya nerd. This is a very modern kit for me. So when I get chance, when something comes up and I've got a chance of buying it, I have to kind of throw myself into the reading all about it and asking questions. And I've got to admit, I really enjoy it. I love the learning process, and I love it that much now. I've not even built this thing, obviously, but I love it that much now that I am definitely going to get hold of a new in-box DB-01 Durga, because it's just supposed to be just such a great buggy. So it's kind of opening this channel's opening like different avenues up for me within the Tamiya timeline, which I think is really cool. So I think I've covered everything. Given that this is a flop, to me, makes it such a cool thing to own. Anyway guys, let me know in the comments what you think to this. Next video will be the full unboxing of this, because this is pretty special. The whole design is very unique, but we'll go through that on the next video. So anyway guys, I hope you enjoyed the little Glenn Barkley history lesson. Once again guys, thanks for watching, it's really appreciated. If you are new to this channel, if you could please consider liking and subscribing to support us, and if you do that, please smash that notification bell for our weekly videos. And as always guys, happy RCing.